Senate President Bukola Saraki says the Senate may revisit its rejection of the devolution of powers bill. This is as it continues its constitutional review. The Senate has come under attacks from many Nigerians for its decision to reject more powers to the states. Now, joining us in the studio to discuss this now is political analyst Obafemi George. And we expect him to join us as we get along. But we also have on Skype the media consultant, political and public affairs analyst, Olabode Osenie. Olabode, it's good to have you join us right now.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, the Senate seemed to be having a rethink right now from the public outcry. How effective is that in meeting the demand of Nigerians, especially talking about the constitutional review?
I'm very happy they are doing that, because the truth of the matter is I don't know why in the first place they decided to reject it, but the truth of the matter is it's all about not wanting the ordinary masses in the country to understand what good governance is all about. They are trying to cloud their sense of judgment, their sense of information, and so on and so forth. Power is nothing new. Devolution in power is like delegating responsibilities, a way of getting the job done to the lowest level. In this case, we are talking of devolution of power to regional and to the local government. And the truth is, the government comes first to the people from the local government. They are the one whose social settings we are talking about. You cannot take the power from them. You cannot take the necessary building up of settings of structure that will enhance and enrich their lives away. But that is exactly what we get in the country. The National Assembly are good in taking care of themselves. They don't really care about any other people. So I'm happy that the Senate President is now talking, oh, we want to revisit what we rejected. And I hope this time around they should understand this is also part of the restructuring people are asking for. You must devolve power to the people. You must make sure the necessary structure of good governance get to the people. And the only way to do that is by delegating devolution of power to the regional and also most especially the local government.
Okay, let me ask you. The Senate President also said some parts of the country, they need more time to understand exactly what we mean when we talk about restructuring. Isn't that a good enough argument?
No, 56 years on? Are you telling me if you have been studying for the last 56 years or the last, let's say the last dispensation of how many years now, 16 years, you still don't know what devolution is? You don't know what the benefit of devolution is. Is that what they are trying to tell us? No. It's still confirming that this particular set of people that got selected to both houses, whether in the federal, also in the local, regional level, they're just not doing the job. They just decided not to do what they are supposed to be doing. You have an organization. You cannot be the only one person there. There are different departments in government. There are different branches, commission, agencies, and so on and so forth. You cannot be in Abuja and in the House of Senate or House of Rep and be getting the job done at different levels. So I take that to be a joke. They know, and we have all the necessary requirements, brains, people who can do the job better than what they are doing there. So for me, asking for more time to understand, I think that's a joke.
All right, Olabode, let me put you on hold a little bit and come to Obafemi George joining us right now. Obafemi, good afternoon. It's good to have you join us, political analyst. Right. Now, if you check what is going on, there seems to be disagreement in some of the agreement or resolution between the Senate and the House of Reps. What is the way forward when we come to moving ahead and sending the bills to the State House Assembly from there?
You know, something is fundamentally wrong. And until we go to the foundation, we'll just keep going on this rigmarole. It's never going to get us anywhere. This is the purported constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Whatever we do is meant to take preeminence from this. And if you flip to the very first page, it says that this is the constitution of the Federal Republic, promulgation decree number 24. This is a military decree. This is not a constitution. And until we'll address this, we are going nowhere. And if you look at the history of this country, from the very first constitution that was drafted was in 1922, Clifford 1922, Richard 1946, Macpherson 1951, Littleton 1954, even our independent constitution of 1960, it's the same problem. The only thing that looked a bit like a constitution of the people is the 1963 constitution, which we've thrown away. So we need to address the fundamental issues first. This is the most critical part of everything. Democracy says that it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. It needs a document of the people. This is the document by the military government for the people of Nigeria. This cannot take us to the promised land.
But do you think it is easy for the House of Reps, those who decide on these things, to even, jettison this constitution? It's a difficult one. As part of the country is saying we're not ready for this. How do you think we can even move forward? It seems we've been here for so long.
My conclusion, the House of Reps, the Senate cannot take us there, because some of them are also beneficiaries of this lopsidedness. So it is difficult. If you look at what happened last week in the voting pattern, certain regions voted against devolution of powers. So they didn't vote based on logic or reasoning. They voted based on ethnic sentiment. So those regions that felt threatened by what was being proposed, they voted against the bill. So they threw away the baby with the bad water. Instead of the reverse is the case. One day, what's going to happen? Because you see, there's an economic factor that undergirds everything. Very soon, last week, Britain announced that by 2040, they're going to start selling electric four cars. Okay. India, which is one of our largest consumers of our crude oil, they've also passed a bill that by 2030, they will only sell electric cars in India. So guess what? The next 10, 15 years, crude oil will be like maybe $1 or $2 per barrel. Yeah. When that happens, guess what? We will come back to the table. When there's no petrodollar to be sharing at the end of the month, all of us will come back and begin to ask ourselves, listen, how can we empower the states? How can we empower the local government so that everybody can generate something at their pace, based on their capacity, so that at the end of the day, guess what? We can all together be prosperous.
Okay. Now, let's get back to Olabode there on Skype. Now, before the constitution review process, a lot of Nigerians have been talking about restructuring like we started here. Now, one of the crux of this issue that looks like the restructuring is the issue of devolution of powers. If the Senate goes back to this and it scales through and it is passed to the state houses of assembly and it scales through, will Nigerians be satisfied with the process?
Thank you, Mike. I totally agree with your guest in the studio. Even at that, the truth still remains that we will need to do a form of a cleanup among ourselves. We need to get the people to understand that government is not a one-man business. And we also need to get to a point to rearrange the mechanism that will make these changes, the structuring, or whatever you call it, to work. And that's, again, I've said it 100 times, and I would keep saying it. We must reinstall a software called rule of law. It's not going to work if some people, some segment of the society, or some people in higher places believe that the country belongs to them, they can do whatever they want to do, they're above the laws. You understand me? All what we are talking about is not going to work. And even with restructure, we rearrange, we redress, all that kind of thing, we must, when you clean up a computer and you want to install a new software, you must add what we call antivirus. The antivirus Nigeria needs to make sure that nobody is above the law. There must be rule of law in place. Because some people have been taking millions of Nigerians for a ride. They've been taking advantage of them. How do you explain it? We're talking about restructuring. Oh, so are you saying after restructuring, some people will still be sitting down in any of the houses, earning so many millions in a month, getting their own salary regularly paid, and some people, 18,000 naira, you're not paying them for years? What are we talking about? All these are things we need to address. We can restructure, we can do anything we like, until when we put the antivirus to make sure that nobody can be above the law.
Antivirus desperately needed to you. And let me ask you now, what does restructuring mean to you? What do you think is the real answer to this? How do we restructure really?
half a dozen and 6 are the same thing. So whether you call it restructuring, fiscal federalism, true federalism, devolution of powers, we're talking about the same thing. And it's simple. Let every state, every local government develop at their pace based on their capacity. Now, the Constitution has put so much power at the center. I mean, if you look at it, 68 items on the exclusive list. It is limiting everybody. Let me give you a classic example. I live in Etiosa local government. About 2 years ago, the government of Lagos State commissioned a power plant that was generating about 9 megawatts. That power plant has the capacity to generate about 30 megawatts if expanded. The entire power requirement for Lekki Phase 1 is just about 30 megawatts. But guess what? This law says that a local government or a state cannot generate power and sell to its citizen. So guess what? We have generators, we have fumes. But whereas if you take that away from the exclusive list and you put it on the concurrent, a local government can decide, let me put a power plant around here in
the
Ikosi.
national grid.
And when you do that, guess what? According to Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry, 60% of the cost of manufacture is from energy. So if you take that away, you save them more money. They can reinvest that money in the economy. You create jobs, you create prosperity. Those are the things, those are the Naira and Kobo perspective from which we need to begin to look at this issue of devolution of powers. I'll give you one more example. In 2012, if you remember that there was a time that Lagos State government took the federal government to court saying that VAT must be collected by state government and not federal government. Supreme Court threw away that case. Why? If you look at the income, VAT in 2012 for the whole country was about 710 billion. 45% of that came from Lagos State alone. Company income tax for the same year was over 800 billion. 85% of that was generated in Lagos State alone. So Lagos State government said, listen, if I'm carrying this burden, it's a pressure on our infrastructure. Let us keep some of this money and invest in infrastructure so that we can produce more. So there will be a larger cake for Zamfara, for Taraba, for Yola to share. And that's what this legislation needs to begin to understand. That, listen, more money to those states that are doing well also means more money for you at the end of the day. They should stop looking at it from this ethnic perspective, this historical way we keep looking at things from the regional level of the 60s. Things are changing.
They're changing.
All right. Obafemi George, political analyst, thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. And we also thank Olabode Osenie, media consultant and public affairs analyst, for joining us on Skype. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right.